A very good morning. Mazatla Mahle, thank you so much for waking up with us today. Sanavusela, Sanmukelela Mhlehlele Kusile breakfast show. It is 6 o'clock on the dot. Lashogona kuqala kuhlelo lethu lomhla ekseni ungasibukela na YouTube as well as on your phone if you have the Eswatini TV app Vuselako ngulungelele makagula. It is the 21st of February 2023. Sfiso, good morning.
Lulu, I'm not very well today. Mkuhlane, but I'm hoping ukuthi live lami litawukhona translator kahle. Babukele emakhaya bangive kahle. But I'm here because of the passion and the love that we have for this job, and for always bringing for babukele ihlelo labo labalithandayo. Otherwise, mkhuhlane. I think lokushintsha kwena kwesizini.
Kwesizini, yes.
Namhlanje belihusha kuseni.
Yeah.
Otherwise wena unjani wena?
Ngiphilile Sifisa, ngiphilile. I think kumele ukuthi uhambe emfulambila, that's ngilemvu nje lehlale ikhuthatha liteketembele ukuthi uhloti uhlola simo sakho sempilo, especially nakucala umnyaka nje utata ukuthi simo sakho osikanjani.
Okay, cha ngiyakuva lungelele. Ngabe excited kangakanani ngemkhosi webugani wena ngoba siyathi kusitintwa takho le.
Yes, finally. It's Friday. No, Sifisa, we cannot wait ukuthi kushaye lesihlanu sitawu yakhona ebuhleni. All roads lead to ebuhleni this weekend.
For sure. Speaking of things that we cannot wait for, I cannot wait for 7:30 lomhla ehlelweni njengoba sidabe sijoinwa ngibaka Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency. Labatabe for the next 3 days will be holding a training session for government and state-owned entities throughout the country to capacitate them on the newly developed standard bidding documents. Now we will be joined in the studio by Nomiles Melane, who is their senior capacity building under their Commerce Department, as well as Velingwenya, who is their senior investigations officer under their Compliance Department, Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency. They will be explaining Gutsi Velema standard bidding documents and how they will make the procurement system in Eswatini more efficient. They'll be joining us at 7:30. I'm excited for this one.
Yes, also at 7:30 stop sikhulumisana nenhlangano yabo thishela njokuda kumle ukuthi namuhla mhlahlangene ukubhala ilanga le-International Mother Language Day. So sidabe sikhulumisana nabo bothishela lababili kuva nje ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe lolwimi lwesiswati lusakhulunywa kanganani etikolweni lilanga ke leli lela konfenywa ngomhlahlangene ngeminyaka wa 2002. Sidabe sixoxisana nabo uva ukuthi vele mhlambe lolwimi lwesiswati sesihambe kanganani silive kuzama ukuthi silibuyise ukuthi libe lulwimi lesilikhuluma kakhulu ngoba labanye abamfana labanenge nje abasathi siswati Sifiso umfana sabahlale sabakhuluma singisi kuphela. So malanga la kanjena yes la tawuzama ukuthi asikhumbude ukuthi lwimi lwethu leli ubalekile ukuthi silade sabe sikhulumisana nabo lomhla ekseni lapha nje dinza badange phandle kwakuleli ngale kwaloko manje sibathwethe makethe sitawubena dinza badethu de luhlelo.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3# and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Sipheleke imizuzu lesihlanu solo ibumbene insimbi yesithupha kulesikhathi sanyalo asithathe indzaba tethu lapha ekhaya. Lo sabambe kuba indvuna yetemcebo waphansi nemandla Jabulani Mabuza uthi emkhatsini wenyanga yamabasa nenyanga yenkhwenkhweti lelitiko litawucala umsebenzi wekwakha ingungu ya oyili lesephuza umoya i-Strategic Oil Reserve Facility. Indvuna yethi sethi semaphethelweni tinkulumo nenkampani letawubuka lo msebenzi wekwakhiwa kwale ngungu.
Lomunye umsebenzi wenkampani yahulumende lethandza kusungula lebuka tindzaba tabo petroleum na oyili, i-Eswatini National Petroleum Company kucinisekisa kutsi live libate tinkinga tekweselwa petroleum ngekusukumisa umsebenzi wekwakhiwa kwengungu ya petroleum i-Strategic Oil Reserve Facility. Le ngungu inetinhlangothi letintsatfu kufaka ekhatsi indzawo yekuhluta oyili kulokunye. Lo sabambe kuba indvuna yelitiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla Jabulani Mabuza acocisana nalo msakato ngemsombuluko uthi sethi semaphethelweni tinkulumo netinkampani tawusekela hulumende kwakha le ngungu kanti umsebenzi wekuyakha utawucala ngenyanga yamabasa kulomnyaka.
Target yethu kule project ukuthi kulomnyaka lapha bo April May basifisa kube March April kepha nje ke to be on the safer side singasho ukuthi April May sifisa ukuthi ibe icala i-contractor ingena esayithini yenta lo msebenzi walendansi uba impumelelo. Kepha ke kudawuya ngekuthi ama-discussions ethu asichubekela kahle yini nalawo ma-financiers labhekekile ukuthi sibambisane nawo ngoba ungeke utendele ngemali lesekhikhini. Dawukhanza ukuthi wena unemali lengaka kanti le project mhlawumbe i-cost yayo ing-2 billion. So ke udzinga ke ukuthi kube khona lokhu finance akole mali lengaka. Very important projects for the country. Strategic Oil Reserve siyadzinga ukuthi sibe na fuel lesitambeka eveni. Nyalo nje nawunaka uma ngabe siphumelele kahle siphumelele njengako leplan kwalale strategy lokho ukuthi okungenani sikhone kuba na oil noma ke mhlawumbe na fuel longa khona kusithatha 60 days tinyanga letimbili ngiloko akhona fuel etingongweni noma ngabe sekwendeka kuvela siphi simo khanze ukuthi siyakhona kumdonsa for that period.
Indvuna iphinze ithi kulokunye lokwakhiwa kwale ngungu ya oyili kutawukwakha ematfuba emsebenzi eveni phinze kunciphise tinkinga tekwesolakala kwa petroleum lapha eveni. Etindzabeni ye-Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisiwe Khoza nginasikhumbuzo Dlamini eMbabane.
Sewusukunyiswe ngalokusemthethweni umsebenzi wekwakhiwa kabusha kwesikole lesincane sasebhalekane Nazarene. Akhuluma nakasukumisa ngalokusemthethweni lomsebenzi imabhalane lomkhulu etiko letemfundvo September Gama. Uthi kwanyalo batawucala ngemaklasi lamane nelikhishi kodwa umsebenzi usetawuchubeka njengoba isikole sonke kubhekeke kwekuthi sisuswe lapho sikhona khona manje ngenxa yokuthi lawa lakhona emaklasi semadzala kakhulu akasalungiseki.
Sikolo lesincane sebhalekane Nazarene sakhiwe ngeminyaka 1930 lokwenta ukuthi sibe ngulesinye setikolo letindzala lapha eveni. Mabhalane lomkhulu etiko letemfundvo September Gama uthi litiko lisukumele etulu indzaba yekwakhiwa kwalesikolo ulandzela ukuthi Ndunankulu Cleopas Dlamini athembise kwakha emaklasi lamane.
Semizwa wakhoma Ndunankulu suke asakhume ipolicy. Bese siya-implement senza iphumelele bayikho. Washo ukuthi kutaba kube namaklasi lamasha lamane nendlu yokuphekela. Siyaconza nathi isikole semfundo ukuthi ukugcina kwakhona kufanele isikole asigcine sihambe sona kuyalendazi enzaweni lesha ngoba basho ukuthi kunagesi la lo ngathi abantu baphatha ngelanga. So namhla sidele ukusukuza lo msebenzi lokucala.
Tishela Nhloko wakulesikolo Nhlanhla Lenhle Shongwe uthi kwakhiwa kabusha kwalesikolo kubalulekile njengoba emaklasi abo asasisimeni lesibucayi.
Lapha msakati kutawudlala ikhaza lengengikhonene kusingalichaza dodane lelikhulu kakhulu. Njengoba bengisusi lamaklasi lakhona basanetha lamanye na uqabanga kuwafulela lolubonza luyawa. Lokho kutawenda ukuthi nasibantwana bebafunza enzaweni lebengasiyo levikelekile nalephephile. Nabothishela bebafundzisa enzaweni lengakaphephi nalengavikeleki ngoba lamanye lamaklasi bekane titebhisi letinze kanzi phela sekunaba nato tifo etehlukahlukene nebantwana labahamba ngaleto tincola tekuhamba labangasakhona ingena kubo. langa nje atawena sibantwana bajabulele ukuthi aye esikolweni futhi bafunze ngekukhululeka nangangesabi ngoba kutabe kunemaklasi la kahle lasezingeni.
Lobukete kuchumana emasondweni emanazareni esifundzeni leSanders neAfrika Solomon Ndlovu ubonge uhulumende wakuleli ngekubambisa leli sondvo etinhlelweni lelinato kusukela etibhedlela tikolo kanye nemasondvo. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV ngibongo simakakule Madlanga Empisi.
Lihhovisi leliphini landvunankhulu latisa bantfu labadzala nalabakhubatekile kutsi libhaliso lolichubeka kwemahhovisini yabosonhlalakahle selomisiwe esikhashana ngenxa yetinkinga lababhekene nato bangemalunga aleli hhovisi. Naso-ke sive ngenxa yetimvula letichubekako nekuna eveni. Lihhovisi leliphini landvunankhulu linika sicinisekiso bantfu labadzala nalabakhubatekile kutsi batayitfola imali yabo kulesi sikhatsi. Lihhovisi leliphini landvunankhulu licaphelisa sive ngetigilamkhuba letenta ngathi titi-70 taleli hhovisi. Umphathi welibandla letekuvakasha kuleli Eswatini Tourism Authority Linda Nxumalo ucela eMaswati ukuthi atiphatse kahle ajinge futhi aphathe kahle netivakashi letitawuvakashela kuleli tite emkhosini webuganu lotawube usebuhleni kule mpelasondvo. Nxumalo ukusho lokhu ngesikhatsi lelibandla kanye nalabatsindzekako emkhosini webuganu bahlangene nebetindlu tebetindzaba.
Umphathi welibandla letekuvakasha kuleli Eswatini Tourism Authority Linda Nxumalo ukhonkosele eMaswatini kusatiphatse kahle tivakashi letitokude emkhosini webuganu.
Tiyeta tivakashi kule mpelasondvo labanye basuka eMozambique labanye basuka eSouth Africa lesesivile ukuthi bayeta nalamanye emave batabe bakhona sicela nje ukuthi tivakashi atiphatheke kahle neMaswati atiphathe kahle nawo aphathane kahle.
Lobu kwehlangothi letingoti kanye nekufundzisa esikhwameni sesincephetelo motor vehicle accident fund Tumisa Dlamini uthe eMaswati ahambele khashane nasemgwaqweni uma sekathe cabu bemaganu.
Kulesikhathi lesi the prevalence of pedestrian fatalities is high ngoba nabantu uyadibana ebusuku nje aphethe isitutulu sakhe ayenza khona la mgwaqweni.
Loyayachubehlele emkhosini webuganu olgadlamini ukuthi atalithango neMaswati wonke ukuthi abaphume ngetingane.
Isifiso sethu ukuthi siphume ngetingane. Sibonile sisuke encwaleni bonkosi beyinhle ngendlela emanganisako libutho beliganzelana nathi siluthango. Sithemba ukuthi njengoba sethiwe phezulu komkhono siyawuphuma ngetingane nathi siphelele khona esigodlweni ebuhleni.
eMaswati yatiswa ukuthi asekulomkhosi atawukhona kuthenga imikhiqido leyakhiwe ngemaganu lokufaka ekhathi jam iasha tingano emabhanisi ijuice emantongomane kubala kulemye imikhiqido. Libandla leSwatini National Trust Commission lithi kudla kwesintu kutabe kukhona kanti lihotela laseRoyal Villas ethembisa ukuthi kudla kwesimanje manje kutawube kuthengiswa ngemanani laphansi. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla inasikhumbuzo Dlamini sisembabane.
Indzawo yasenkhanini kaLobamba ihlaselwe isiphepho lesinemandla ngemsombuluko ngetitfuba tensimbi yesithathu yentsambama. Lesiphepho silimata etakhiwo sashiya umonakalo emasimini salimata nemabholi agesi. Lesiphepho senteka nje live lisachubeka nekutfola timvula letinyenti letichubekako nekudala umonakalo emakhaya emigwaqweni nasemasimini. Libandla letangoma telitulu libikile kutsi timvula titawuba ngcono kuleli viki kodwa titawuba khona timvula letihambisana nekudvuma ngemsombuluko nangalesibili. Libandla lelibuke kuphungata ehlakalo eveni National Disaster Management Agency kanye nenhlangano yesiphambano lesibovu iEswatini Baphalali Red Cross Society kubhekeke kutsi livakashele lendzawo yasenkhanini kuhlola simo kanye nemonakalo lowendiwe kulesiphepho. Zamcolo lowatiwa ngele tropical cyclone Freddy tinkhomba tithi ungahle ulihlasele live laseSwatini ngemsombuluko. Loku kuvetwe sangoma selitulu Phephisa Silongonyane emhlanganweni nebetindzaba ngemsombuluko.
Zamcolo Freddy noma ke tropical cyclone Freddy uqale even leAustralia lengekusho kwetangoma telitulu telive leNingizimu Afrika kubheke ukuthi uhlasele live leMadagascar ngalesibili ebusuku. Lo zamcolo sowugagulwe njengazamcolo lonemandla nalonebungoti lobukhulu phecelezi intense njengoba umoya wakhona uhamba ngesivinini lesingaba nge-270 kilometers ngel-hour. Tangoma telitulu talapha eveni ngemsombuluko tibambe umhlangano nebetindzaba lapho bachaze khona ukuthi kwanyalo imivila yalezamcolo ikhomba ukuthi ungahle ugege ungefiki eveni kanti lona lomunye umvila ukhomba ukuthi ungahle ufike lapha eveni ngemphelasontfo. Sangoma selitulu Phephisa Sihlongonyane uchazile ukuthi live litawukwati kahle ukuthi lisengotini kanganani uthatha yiphi indlela lo zamcolo ungefika eveni leMadagascar sowungena kulomvila welive leMozambique.
La ikhona kwanyalo isesekhashane kunelesifundza sethu isesekhashane kunale Southern Africa ngisho njalo. Kwanyalo sabuke lemibili noma lemithathu. Tinkhomba nyalo tithi uma lo zamcolo andlula eMadagascar kusenekwenteka abheke enyakatho nelive laseSwatini. Kusenekwenteka abheke eningizimu aconze eningikhuluma ngenyakatho ngisho kuya kuBera eMozambique. Nangikhuluma ngeningizimu ngisho ukuthi angahle ehle asonzele boMaputo yazaconza boMaputo sesitawuconzana neSwatini.
Libandla letangoma telitulu lithi litawuchubeka nekulandzelela lo zamcolo latise sive. Etindzabeni yeSwatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza nginaSikhumbuzo Dlamini eMbabane.
Kanti-ke ngakulokunye libandla letangoma telitulu kubhekeke ukuthi lihlangane nebetindzaba kwetfula umbiko ngazamcolo Freddy insatheli yemsakato Samkeliswe Khoza utasichazela ngalomsebenzi.
Kuleli viki libukeka kulivikile likahle in terms of kubalela emathuba ukuthi sibone ilanga manengi kakhulu kuleli viki. Kulama kusukela nje namhla nakusasa sigatsele ukuthi litaba imvula lehambisana nekuduma nekuthuka ntambama kanti kusukela ngalesithathu kuye kulesihlanu sigatsele ukuthi litabe nje lingilelo lelivukane nkungu bese liba mabalengwe lilanga lonke kulamalanga lamathathu kusukela emva kwakusasa. Exwayisweni sibe seMaswati ukuthi nasikhuluma sathi kutaba nemathuba emvula lehambisana nekuduma kungacela kuso sive ukuthi sicaphele kakhulu ikakhulu la khathi babona ukuthi selethwele bese bathatha tindzawo letikahle lapho bangavikeleka khona ikakhulu nawe ngabe ulusile nje bese uyatigalela uba ngasekhaya kuze ukuthi utophepha kulombane ngoba ngiyo lo lofike ube ingoti.
Bafundisi nalabaphethe emabandla kubhekeke ukuthi baphile impilo yebuKristu nalecotfo ngaso sonke isikhathi babe sibonelo lesihle kulabo lababaholako. Lawa-ke emavi elisekela lamengameli we-Conference of Churches Sabelo Mdluli ngesikhathi kufundiswa abaholi bemabandla ngaphansi kwesihloko lesibuke kwanza kwemasontfo nekukhonza kwawo. Lo mhlangano ubanjelwe esontfweni laseDivine kaManzini.
Lo mhlangano lobanjwe ngaphansi kwesihloko lesithi Church Planting and Discipleship uhlose ukukhulumisa tindzaba tekwanza kwamasonto kuthi anza nje asashumayela okungeko yini noma asaphambukile kulokubhekekile kuwo. Lokunye lokukhulunyiswako indzaba yokunakekela labatsandza kuphenduka. Umfundisi Sabelo Mdluli lolisekela lamengameli eSwatini Conference of Churches uyachaza ngobumcoka balo mhlangano.
Conference of Churches nje le training njoba akwenda lokho ulungisa leyo nkinga leyo lekhona ukuthi labantu nalabafundisi labangibona bathunyiwe badzinga kufundziswa ngoba akusithi lo ukuthi ube nalenshisekelo kodwa libe lwati ungenalo.
Umfundisi Gerhard van Niekerk lolisekela lamengameli ka Church Planting Institute uthi abasaqali kuba lapha eSwatini bafundzisa.
The answer to the world is Jesus Christ. And by making the true disciples, not just people who go to church, but true disciples of the Lord Jesus Christ, communities are changed. People are changed.
Uthi konke lokwendekalayo emhlabeni sisombululo nguJesu Kristu. Loba lapha eSwatini nje basuka eveni lase-South Africa kanike evikini lelitako baya eveni lase-Lesotho bayeke eMelika nase-Vietnam solo bafundzisa ngalesihloko. Lo msebenzi-ke utawuthatha amalanga lamathathu-ke lapha eveni. Etindzabeni-ke ngingiyani Msibi nginasimuva Shongwe sikaManzini.
Siboshwa lesingundumiso Khumalo lebesivonsa sigwebo seminyaka leyimfica ejele lasesibhiki secile sabaleka ejele ngalesihlanu lesekela laluchumanisa umnyango wekucondzisa atimilo kanye nesive baphelele kunene uthi Khumalo wagwebelwa licala lekugagadlela
uthe ngelanga lesihlanu evikini lesuka kulo ngetithuba nje tinsimbi elishumi nakubili emini yena ke Ndumiso uKhumalo wabaleka khona ejele kulandzela kwekuthi emaphoyisa lebekade ababukile abakhiphe ukuthi baye kuyosebenza khona ema-workshops lapho emagumbi lapho ama-inmates ethu afundzela khona emakhono la ehlukahlukene kuthe-ke lapho-ke babakhiphile lona wekunene wasewuthula lona lithuba lokwekuthi abaleke ngekwekuthi aphume khona ece kufenisi wakhona ejele si-correctional services ke sithanza nje kucela sonke sive semaswati kwekuthi sisibambise sisaphume umkhankaso wekufuna lona wekunene lobalekile lokundumiso loneminyaka lengu-47 wakhona emayuwane solakala kwekuthi angabalekela etindzaweni litakhona kubomayuwane noma khona esipiki noma nasetindzaweni tase umathamo siyacela kwekuthi labo labatawuthi mhlambe bambone noma bamfanise lona wekunene lobaleke agcoke timbatho takhona ejele letiluhlata letinembheji ye-correctional services kuthi bangaleli liphutha bavele bashayele yona inombolo ya operations wase-correctional services 7606 2519 7606 noma-ke yona inhlabamkhosi yemaphoyisa lekungu-999
beluhlangothi lwetemcebo waphansi bacela sive ukuthi sibabeketelele basatochubekela kuletinye tifundza bafune wona umcebo waphansi bathi indiza lenelusiba emhlane isetochubeka iye kuletinye tifundza ngalomsebenzi
Silo somhlaba inkosi Mswati wesithathu nasivula iPhalamende ngalesihlanu saveta ukuthi live lithole imicebo yaphansi etindzaweni letahlukahlukene kuleli siloke sithe lo mcebo waphansi kumele uzuze eMaswati luhlangothi lwaka-geology luthi latfola umcebo lebelungacabangi ukuthi ukhona etindzaweni lapho bebangacabangi khona ukuthi kungaba nemcebo waphansi Sibusiswa Dlamini lobukedwana-ke tindzaba temcebo waphansi uthi umbiko sebawubhalile wachaza-ke nesigaba lesilandzelako kulena ndzaba
siwatholile etindzaweni la besingacabanga ukuthi akhona khona saphinde sawathola etindzaweni la besicabanga ukuthi agcina la sathola ukuthi akagcini khona aqhubeka besiphishanekile-ke sithenga lema-instruments lathengekile ukuthi si-verify le nto le siyithole endizeni time frame besibeke bo 6 to 8 months but ke due to weather nalokunye ke leminye imishini yakhona sesiyithengile isendleleni leminye sisakayithengi but le siyithengile ngicabanga ukuthi sitawukhona kwenda le ground truthing
lolu hlangothi luka-geology liyacela ukuthi sive sibabeketelele basafuna lo mcebo waphansi njengoba basayana kuletinye tifundza kanti-ke indiza yelusiba emhlane itawube ubange umsindvo njalo kusafunwa-ke wona-ke lo mcebo waphansi endzabeni ngengiyani Msibi Nasimuva Shongwe eMbabane
emaphahla akumahwalala labekakadze yatokela ngephandle sekadubulene nemaphoyisa khona endzaweni yakumahwalala umcumanisi wesive kanye nemaphoyisa superintendent Phindile Vilakati uthi kulokushintshiselana ngenhlavu kushone munye lebekakadze yahamba nalamaphahla
umcumanisi wesive kanye nemaphoyisa superintendent Phindile Vilakati ucela sive sibambise emaphoyisa ekutfoleni lamawela kumahwalala
kuthi kule mphela-sonto lesikuyo la eMbabane kumahwalala kwaba nemadvodza lahlasela sive lese bantfu labahlukehlukene munye-ke walabo labahlaselwa wakhona kuhlaba umkhosi le kweta lelinye lijaha lelinaso sibhamu nalo lathi litowulamula ngenhlanhla lembi naye lo wekunene lebekatowulamula bamkhona kumhlasela baphindze bamdisarma ngithi bamuke leso sibhamu lebe sinetinhlavu leting-24 ekhathi sicela sona sive sisiside kutfola laba bekunene labende lokucala sibonge kakhulu nakuso sive lesisithintsako ngaso sonke isikhathi njengaloku kwentekile ukuthi itolo Ntambama sive salapha kumahwalala sababona laba bekunene sasibita noko ke sithi sisatama kubabopha kwabe sekuba nekuvulelwa kwenhlavu le noko munye wakhona ke ube sesuyalimala kuloyo mzokozoko waphuthunyiswa isibhedlela lapho kutholakala ukuthi soshile emhlabeni labanye ke solo bakhona emahlathini bayabaleka singacela nje sive sichubeke nekusibambisa kuze ukuthi batholakale laba bekunene labafaka ekhathi emaphahla lamabili le kaphumile out on bail kulandzela ukuthi kukhona lambulala emalangeni lendlulile la eMbabane edolobheni siyacela ke ukuthi sive nasibabona nabo bekunene nabeva abativete emaphoyiseni ukuthi abasita kakhulu lokhu kulamacala lababhekene nawo
lamawela kumahwalala beyakatsi atokele ngephandle ngemuva kwekuboshelwa licala lekubulala kuleyo indzawo yekucedza koma edolobheni laseMbabane imvumo yekutokela ngephandle bekayitfule nating 13 enyangeni lephelile kuwumnyaka losetulu etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginasimuva shonge sikumahwalala.
Umndeni wakamkhajwa akaphunga sewahlala uMemantondolwane ngenxa yelitshe lelikhulu lelisebaleni ekhaya lelichubekako nekuba ingoti njalo lingabe linile. Ngekusho kwa James Mkhajwa longibabe kuleli khaya lelitshe lafucwa ngulebe bakha umgwaco lesolo bathembisa kulisusa solo nani.
James Mkhajwa uthi bantfu lebebakha umgwaco bafucela lamatshe ekhaya kakhe bathi ngeshwa bebangabone ukuthi kunelikhaya uthi kude tabale kangakatendi tekubika nekucela ukuthi kususwe lamatshe kodwa ke kude lomnakako kude kube ngumanje uthi lese kungasamniki kuthula ukuthi kunebantwana labancane lebangagcotshwa ngulamatshe njengoba abonakala asonzela ebaleni kanti ke njengoba futhi linile ayahamba kancane kancane.
Bika le ndvuna yakaWex lele efika la khaya yalibona nje yalada lelitshe leli yahamba nayo ibuya indvo le efika yayenda yadubisa kuhloba kwelibala lamatshe semanengi lawa nje atakuwa nanga agqobe nayo indlu naye nalawa lo mhlaba onyuka kancane kancane njengoba nilibona leli selilenga nalo litakuwa mina nje kangathi sisengini manje kube mane laba kaWex bayangisita kwebavelana nami ngabe betile lapha badongikhweshisela lamatshe indvo leseyingasisita la sikavetha noma idosa
ucela ukuthi labo lebafanele bafana bayingenele indzaba yemndeni wakhe kungakalimali umuntu noma ke tindonga telikhaya lakhe etindzabeni ngengiyani emsebeni wasimuva shongwe sikaphunga.
Etindzabeni temidlalo lobuke kuthuthukisa umdlalo webhola kubadlali labancane enhlanganweni lengamele umdlalo webhola lapha eVeni Friday Miyeni uthi noma likhombe kwehla lizinga kubadlali labancane labangephansi kweminyaka leli15 ngaphansi kwakumathapha labe bangenele imidlalo ye-Build It Under 15 nakucathaniswa nalabo baseMbabane kodwa bajabula ngetinombolo tebadlali labaletfa macembu. Miyeni uphindze waveta ukuthi bonompembe labaqhuba lemidlalo baceceshekile kunabonompembe esigabeni lesisephansi. Kanti-ke kumancamo licembu le-Royal Leopard liphumelele ku-Young Heroes ngemagoli lamathathu kulinye.
yokuqhathanisa amindo two places Mbabane Mathapha uyabalwe ukuthi laba bakumathapha bangaphasanyana kunalaba baseMbabane and uma ukubuka ke technically uyabalwe ukuthi vele lo mthela ukuthi eMbabane banawo lama gymnastics la functional cishe badlala umnyaka wonke vele lo kudlala kwabo le technique yabo ingcono enalo competition bese kuyenta ukuthi ke vele ibangile kahle sinalo luhlelo lekuthusa borafela lolukhona borafela lesibasebenzisa konje ka Build It kuba borafela lesiassignwa ngibo ngulama regional associations laba bonke borafela kulama regions if ungasho kanjalo incumbi yabo thola ukuthi ngulama young and upcoming referees kanti vele basena basic referring babese ke babanika ipractice ngekuthi babuye badlalise kulabantwana.
Ngaleyo ndzaba ke yema under 15 siyatephetsa tindzaba tethu tekucala talomuhla sitawahlola etimakethe singakayi etimakethe sitawutsatsa simo selitulu sitawuthi nasibuya ke etimakethe sibe nembiko lechamuka khona ka World Health Organization.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who pays for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and a gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Welcome back. Sivusile nawe losanza kusivulela lo mhlahlelo nekusile breakfast show so siqhubeka nalo hlelo lesikhathi sidawubuka yona inhlangano kamhlaba yetempilo WHO idasiniketa nje sithombe noma ke updates ukuthi seyihambe kanganani etindzaba letebhedvukile lapha emhlabeni ihlangane ke nebetindzaba lapho babude khona imibuto lehlukahlukene ngato tifo letfaya ekhathi COVID-19 monkeypox naletinye tifo asisibukele na clip.
Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Last night, I returned from the Syrian Arab Republic, where I visited areas affected by last week's devastating earthquake. I saw the destruction of entire communities, the unspeakable suffering of people, and the courage and determination of survivors and responders. In Aleppo, I met people in temporary shelters set up by community and religious groups. I saw neighbors supporting each other with bedding, clothes, and food. I saw health workers providing medicines and consultations. I met WHO's teams who themselves are affected by the earthquake to hear about the work they are doing. And I visited health centers where I saw how even before this disaster, more than a decade of war has left the health system unable to cope with an emergency like this. As we drove from Aleppo to Damascus, I saw the legacy of conflict, with town after town destroyed and abandoned. Survivors are now facing freezing conditions without adequate shelter, heating, food, clean water, or medical care. WHO is providing care to survivors with injuries and disabilities sustained in the earthquake, hypothermia, mental health and psychosocial needs, the increased risk of infectious disease, and the range of regular health needs. So far, we have shipped medicines and supplies to both affected countries to support care for more than 500,000 people, including for urgent surgery. In Damascus, the regional director, Dr. Ahmed Al-Mandari, Chief of Emergencies, Dr. Mike Ryan, and I met with President Assad to discuss the impact of the earthquake, and we requested that he allow additional cross-border access points, which he indicated he was open to. On Monday, 2 more cross-border points were opened, allowing convoys from Turkey into the northwest of the Syrian Arab Republic. This supplements the aid we had in place before the earthquake struck, and which we distributed to health facilities that day. WHO remains committed to supporting all people in the Syrian Arab Republic now and in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. On Saturday, we launched an appeal for $43 million to support our response in both countries. This amount is increasing by the day, and we expect WHO's financial needs for this emergency to double by the end of this week. We urge donors to be generous. The search and rescue phase is now coming to an end, but for WHO, the task of saving lives is only just beginning. Now to Equatorial Guinea, which on Monday confirmed an outbreak of Marburg virus disease in 2 districts near the borders with Cameroon and Gabon. This is the first reported outbreak of Marburg in Equatorial Guinea. Marburg belongs to the same family of viruses as Ebola, causes similar symptoms, transmits between humans the same way, and like Ebola, has a very high fatality ratio. So far, 9 deaths have been reported in people with symptoms consistent with Marburg, and 1 tested positive for the virus. The other 8 deaths are considered suspected cases because they had similar symptoms and were most likely part of the same transmission chain. But Marburg could not be confirmed because samples could not be obtained. 16 suspected cases have been admitted to health facilities with mild symptoms, and 21 contacts are being monitored at home. WHO is supporting the government to respond to the outbreak by deploying experts in epidemiology, clinical care, risk communication, community engagement, and infection prevention and control. We're also helping to establish diagnostic capacity for Marburg, and we have chartered flights to send medical supplies and personal protective equipment from our hub in Nairobi, Kenya. So far, no confirmed cases have been reported in Cameroon or Gabon. But WHO is working with the Ministry of Health of Cameroon to investigate and alert in that country. We're also supporting the governments of Cameroon and Gabon to prepare to rapidly detect, isolate, and provide care for any suspected cases. There are currently no approved vaccines or treatments for Marburg virus disease, and few are in development. Yesterday, WHO convened a consultation of the Marburg virus vaccine and therapeutics consortium, which includes developers and experts from around the world. Any decision on trials of vaccines and therapeutics will be made by national authorities and researchers in Equatorial Guinea. In the meantime, WHO is convening the Vaccine Prioritization Committee to identify which candidate vaccines should be evaluated first and taking steps to prepare for potential trials. WHO is also discussing with the Ministry of Health the possibility of providing access to experimental therapeutics as part of a clinical trial. Following the large increase in reported COVID-19 related deaths last month, especially from China, hospitalizations and deaths have declined. Last week, around 10,000 deaths were reported to WHO. which is similar to the number of weekly deaths reported prior to last month's increase. I have said it before and I will say it again. 10,000 deaths a week is 10,000 too many for a disease that can be prevented and treated. We also know that the data reported to WHO are an underestimate due to reduced testing and delays in reporting. Subvariants of Omicron remain dominant globally and remain a cause of concern, given their increased transmissibility and the fact that all subvariants can kill. We have the tools to save lives and end COVID-19 as a global health emergency this year. We must continue to use them all and use them well. On Friday, the Emergency Committee for the Global Outbreak of Mpox met to assess whether, in its view, the outbreak remains a public health emergency of international concern. The committee has advised me that, in its view, Mpox remains a global health emergency, and I have accepted that advice. The committee acknowledged the progress made in reducing Mpox transmission globally and the continued decline in reported cases since its last meeting. However, more than 30 countries continue to report cases, and the possible under-detection and under-reporting of confirmed cases in some regions is concerning, particularly in countries where animal-to-human transmission of Mpox has been reported before. WHO continues to call on all countries to maintain surveillance for Mpox and to integrate services for prevention, preparedness, and response into national control programs, including for HIV and other sexually transmitted infections. The earthquake in Turkey and the Syrian Arab Republic, Marburg in Equatorial Guinea, and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic all point to the need for all countries to build health systems that can withstand the shock of emergencies and deliver the care people need when they need it most.
Thank you for taking my question. My question is to Dr. van Kerkhoff regarding her comments to Nature on the Origins investigation. When you said that the plan has changed on the work being done and that there's no phase 2 to this work, I was hoping you could clarify what you meant. As I understand it, the WHO press office is saying that while the investigation is stalled, it's not abandoned. I was hoping just to hear you elaborate a bit on what you meant in that interview. Thank you very much.
This is an error in reporting, which is really quite concerning because it's causing some headlines that are inaccurate. I think we need to be perfectly clear that WHO has not abandoned studying the origins of COVID-19. We have not, and we will not. I spent more than an hour speaking with this reporter over 3 separate interviews, one of which was in person while we were in Singapore together, describing the history of the different missions that have taken place over time in which WHO has been involved in studying and supporting field activities related to understanding the origins of this pandemic. Initially, phase 2 was a plan to be a continuation of that January 2021 mission to Wuhan, which was in a sense seen as phase 1. But we updated our plans, and I've explained this to that reporter. In a sense, phase 2 became SAGO. So we were building on what was done during phase 1 and establishing the SAGO as a permanent strategic advisory group to conduct an independent assessment of the origins of COVID-19, but also to work more broadly to establish a framework to understand the origins of any future epidemic and pandemic pathogen and the origins in which it emerges. So the creation of SAGO was in effect our best effort to move this work forward. We made this very clear in several statements of SAGO, several statements by the Director General, by myself, by Mike Ryan, in different press briefings, but also in statements that we published online. SAGO is an incredible group of experts from around the world that have come together and have met multiple times, including two times face-to-face over the last year, to advance our understandings of this. I think I also want to make very clear that in this article, there was a suggestion of a quiet shelving of a plan. There was no quiet shelving of any plans. We have been and we continue to be open, transparent. We brief our member states regularly in the wider world on where we are with finding these origins. But let me also be very clear that we continue to ask for more cooperation and collaboration with our colleagues in China to advance studies that need to take place in China. Studies that were recommended from the March 2021 WHO report, from the June 2022 SEGO report, and studies that we've been recommending, studies at the animal-human interface and markets on farms. These studies need to be conducted in China, and we need cooperation from our colleagues there to advance our understandings. We will follow the science. We will continue to ask for countries to depoliticize this work, but we need cooperation from our colleagues in China to advance this. I do also want to mention that through the work of studying the origins, it's very difficult. We had always envisioned multiple missions to China for particular technical aspects, but also elsewhere, wherever the science takes us. And we have worked with additional member states around the world to understand and follow any lead in terms of any early indication of SARS-CoV-2 circulation, and we will continue to do so. We just need to make sure that it's very clear that we haven't abandoned any plans. We haven't stopped any work. We will not stop until we understand the origins of this. And it is becoming increasingly difficult because the more time that passes, the more difficult it becomes to really understand what happened in those early stages of the pandemic. So the DG may want to add to this, but we will work with any member state and all member states. We will work with scientists to keep it rooted in the science until we have a better understanding of what happened, follow all hypotheses, follow any science that leads us in any direction. And we thank the colleagues around the world who are helping us to advance this. Thanks.
On the Marburg virus disease in Equatorial Guinea, I was just wondering if the WHO has all the resources in place that it may need in case the situation escalates or spread to Cameroon and Gabon. Also, a high-level US delegation is in Addis Ababa this week. And I was wondering if there are planned meetings between the WHO and Biden official who will be there and on the update on Ethiopia and Tigray situation. Thank you, especially when it comes to access. Thank you.
We do have the resources and the capability to support Equatorial Guinea. Right now, we have WHO in team. The country office have been repurposed, and we have already sent more support from headquarters and regional offices. Just today, we have our grading call, our internal grading, and we have enough team to support the regional. Both our country offices in Gabon and Cameroon are coordinating closely with the Ministry of Health in terms of the regional, sub-regional readiness. So the main priority right now is strengthening the surveillance and the laboratory capacity, as it's a long time since some of these countries had viral hemorrhagic fever, and it's the first time Equatorial Guinea is dealing with. But the lessons learned from COVID response have strengthened the government. They're using the capability that was there for the structure at the national level, led by the Vice President, at the technical level, Minister of Health, and the sub-mission. As we speak now, the Director General of Public Health and with the WHO team is in the field, and one of our senior epidemiologists from Geneva is on the ground supporting team. So we are ready, I think, and the regional office have run a lot of experience, including the recent outbreak in Uganda, the previous Marburg virus outbreak in Guinea and Ghana. So we'll be able to support the ministries and our member states in responding to this outbreak.
In terms of the humanitarian access in Tigray, it continues to improve, and WHO continues to affect all people affected by conflict and other emergencies in Ethiopia. But specifically for Tigray, certainly more and more of the area is accessible, though there are still areas that are not being accessed. Fuel is becoming more available. More trucks are crossing into the area, and health services or health centres are being resupplied. As I said, fuel supplies have increased as well. So overall, we're seeing
and increased access across. And I think it speaks to the fact that the peace process has now really resulted in what was a long blockade for many months, for over a year. And it shows you when you actually do allow material in, how quickly you can start to get aid to people who've been without that for so long. So we welcome that access, and it should continue. There are still, I think, issues with areas close to the border with Eritrea that still have foreign troops present, and that has to be dealt with as well. I know there's the banking system as well. There's more money reaching the banking system in Tigray. So the things that Dr. Tedros has called for before consistently over the last year and a half, access to fuel, access to money in the banking system, access to medicines, access to food. All of these are improving now, and we hope that the peace can be sustained. So people, after so long, been cut off from the world, been cut off from the basic tools of survival, now have an opportunity to recover. But the needs are still vast. This population is very vulnerable still. It has been through a terrible amount of pain and suffering, and we will continue to work with Ethiopian and the authorities in the region to continue to increase WHO's access and presence on the ground. I don't wish to comment on the political processes. The African Union are dealing with the peace process and the monitoring of that, but Dr. Tedros may wish to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. I think as covered it since the signing of the agreement, there is improvement and better access. But as Mike said, there are areas that are still occupied by Eritrean forces where access is limited. But at the same time, we see continued violation of human rights and massacring of civilians in the areas occupied by Eritrean forces. I think while understanding that there is progress, addressing the continued problems will be very important for the peace process to really continue to move forward. On the specific meetings, you asked about the delegation from the US and their Ethiopian counterparts. We have no knowledge about this, and I cannot comment on that. Thank you.
Alright, sibengilo-ke i-team leyo yenhlangano kamhlaba yetempilo WHO basiniketa nje the latest updates ngetifo letibhedvukile emhlabeni. I think nje sifo labakhulume ngaso ngiso sifo se-Marburg lesesibhedvuka naseveni lase-Equatorial Guinea. Dokumenta ukuthi the first case to be confirmed even lase-Equatorial Guinea yaba mhla ka 13 February. Babutileke tinsatheli kokuthi ngabe vele mhlambe sikhona akhona ma-possibilities kokuthi lesifo sale siwelela emaveni abamakhelwane baphembulile ke ba-WHO ukuthi lokubalekile ukuthi sive sase-Equatorial Guinea sitiphephise ngaso sonke isikhathi kude lokubhedvuka kungadokwanza kakhulu. Basinikete nje nesithombe se-COVID-19 naletinye tifo ukuthi ngabe sime kanjani emhlabeni kanye lamanye emaveni lapha emhlabeni.
Yeah, kulesikhathi sengalo-ke sitawubahlula emakethe, masibuye emakethe sitawuthola i-traffic update.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
56 minutes after 6 namhla ekuseni lesikhathanyalo-ke sidawuthatha yona i-traffic update from Sergeant Begu Muzikule. Sikuvusele Magwabane ekuseni, ngabe sime kanjani simo emgwaqweni?
Angivusele Mnguni, ngivusele umbukeli walolu hlelo. Sivuka namuhla simo selitulo sinhle. Noko sisinhle nje-ke solo imigwaqo ayikho esimeni esikahle. Asekhona ama-potholes kule indzawo sekabonakala angamabi kakhulu noma-ke asekhathi nemigwaqo angaba nayo ingoti. Siyagcizelela nje kakhulu ukuthi abe kunene kule simo lesikhona sekungalungi kwemigwaqo asichubeke sishayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela. Wende isiqiniseko sokuthi la ukhona uyabona bese uthatha isinqumo lesiyaba ngiletho lesiphephile. Kanti-ke emadolobheni ethu tiba netemigwaqo emadolobheni ethu onke disebenza kahle. Lesingathi nje asikucaphele ngiyo imigwaqo ethu lesolo ivaliwe ekhathi edolobheni. Umgwaqo lo suka khona lapha ngaka Royal Insurance ubheke etulu lapha kubosandla nemigwaqo ke lo yawuthi usuke khona lapha ngemuva kwa Late ubheke khona lapha endasi lapha. Siyacela ukuthi la khona phesifunzane primary ukuthi awube kunene asichubeke sishayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela kuleyo ngcingwana leyo. Kanti-ke na usuka khona eMbabane ubheke khona lapha eNgwenya asicaphele lapha kumakholokholo kuneloli lenkulu le-Jack nayifile lapho yathatha-ke umzila wangasenxele. Yebo umzila wekuhamba yenda-ke ukuthi imoto lo zitawusebenzisa umzila munye natenyuka tibheka etule engoyoyo. Kanjalo-ke noma usuka khona emotshani naye intaba yokucala lapha kumafutha nakhona kuneloli nakhona nayo leyo leyo i-Jack nayifile yavala-ke umzila wekuhamba. Yacela nje ukuthi kakhulu bashayeli basasonzela kuleto ndawana bashayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela. Akhona emaphoyisa kuzokuthi imbili letindawo wena siqiniseko sokuthi uyaqapheliswa ngesikhathi utovikela tona-ke tingoti. Kanti-ke edolobheni lakaManzini nasi eSteladi lesingumasala esikhundleni sisuka khona lapha e-Estel House bheke khona lapha kuBolichaka naleso Steladi leso sivaliwe. Kanjalo-ke naye Kelly Street losuka lapha eLichaka ubheke khona kubo Cotsdale. Kulolu hlangothi asivete kokuthi lapha endasi emaphiveni na ubheka khona eThabankulu emgwaqweni lo MR24 kuloyo mgwaqo loyo silungiselwe-ke umgwaqwana lo wesikhashana lesiyawuthi sihambe kuwo kwatise ukuthi nali yalibloko phela lapha lahamba lapha. Siyacela-ke ukuthi sisawusebenzisa loyo mgwaqo asikhumbule ukuthi ngumgwaqo lotele nje kutosibambisa ngeke wahamba ngesivinini lesisetulu kakhulu. Kanjalo-ke nalapha emaphivi lapha na ubheka khona kalomahasha emkhathini lomahasha naye emaphiveni nakhona kukhona la kune road failure khona kunanzela-ke leso simo nakhona silungiselwe umgwaqo lesawusebenzisa usawuthola-ke ngasekudla ongesenxele na ubheka khona lapha kalomahasha bekutoba ngumgwaqo nje lotawenda ukuthi basasilungisela leya road failure sive siwusebenzisa kwesikhashana-ke litubane-ke alehle kuloyo mgwaqo kwatise kuzakusuye umgwaqo lolungele ukuthi ungahamba ngesivinini lesisetulu noma-ke ubheka khona lapha etulu eBhunya solo ulimele umgwaqo wethu na uyawufika khona lapha kubomalutha. Kanjalo nalapha na usuka eMsakweni ubheka khona lapha emathamo lapha na uyofika lapha eMlumati eBlokweni nakhona umgwaqo wethu lapho ulimele kusebenza wona-ke umzila munye. Sithi nje awube kunene asikhumbuleni kunaka timpawu temgwaqo sikhumbule kunaka simo lesikhona emgwaqweni silandzele tona timpawu temgwaqo senesiqiniseko sokuthi siyahloniphana nakuba umthamo wethu motolo ubonakala usedude emgwaqweni. Siyabonga kakhulu Mnguni sinifisele ilanga lelihle sachubeka nemsebenzi wenu nelibandla labonjinela lobambisene nalo naso sive semaswati sifisele ilanga lelihle naleliphephile sawusebenzisa umgwaqo.
Siyakhuluma Magwabane nawe-ke sikufisela lusuku loluhle nalabo losebenza nabo nisachuba umsebenzi welive. Isikhathanyalo-ke sitabahlala emakethe uma sibuya sithathe indzaba echamuka ngaphandle kwalapha ekhaya.
Welcome back. It's 2 minutes after 7. Let's take a look at our international news. The death toll from devastating rainfall in southeastern Brazil rose to 40 on Monday, official figures showed, as President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva visited the region and said homes should no longer be built in areas at risk of landslides and major floods.
Homes swept away by mud. Torrential rain in Brazil's southeast has left hundreds homeless and many more displaced. Mailsa is one of the many whose house was destroyed by a landslide. Together with her daughter, grandson and husband, she barely made it out in time.
It's something that can't be explained. It's so fast. Either you run or you die. You can't carry anything but your life, which is the main thing.
Rescue teams are working hard to reach those who've been trapped by the mudslides, while residents whose homes are still standing scramble to salvage what they can. Efforts to recover survivors have been hampered by damaged or flooded roads, prompting authorities to call on the military and their helicopters to help with the search. President Lula da Silva flew over some of the most affected areas to assess the damage.
First of all, I would like to ask those of us who believe in God to pray a little, not only for the victims, but to pray that it doesn't rain in the coming days, so that we can work and begin the recovery of the town of São Sebastião.
With more heavy rain forecast for the next few days, the death toll is likely to rise. The flooding is the latest in a series of disasters brought on by poorly constructed homes, often on hillsides, that fall victim to the rainy season.
North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles toward its eastern waters on Monday in a widely condemned weapons test that prompted Tokyo to request an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. The firings following an intercontinental ballistic missile launch on Saturday and North Korea's threats to take an unprecedentedly strong response to US-South Korean military drills that the North views as an invasion rehearsal.
Above the Japanese island of Hokkaido, a fireball blazes through the night. Broadcast by Japanese television, these images show a missile launched by North Korea on Saturday. It was South Korea who initially alerted the public, with Pyongyang only confirming the launch the following day. The missile landed in the exclusive economic zone of Japan, according to Tokyo.
The firing is an escalating provocation against the international community as a whole, and naturally we severely lodged a protest against it. The safety and security of Japanese people are the most important things over anything else.
Japanese authorities affirmed that the object launched was an intercontinental ballistic missile. According to experts, Pyongyang wanted to test a missile with solid fuel. It's a form of technology that the North Korean regime has been attempting to master, since it is easier to store and more difficult to detect. This is the second North Korean missile to land in Japan's EEZ zone since November 2022. Tensions in the region have been growing in recent months, with an increasing number of missile drills from North Korea and, in return, joint military maneuvers from Seoul and the US. The launch follows several days of simulation exercises between these two allies in preparation for a potential nuclear attack from Pyongyang.
US President Joe Biden made an unannounced visit on Monday to Ukraine, days ahead of the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion, saying he was there to show our support for the nation's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. Speaking alongside Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Mariinsky Palace in Kyiv, Biden announced $500 million aid, including artillery, ammunition, and anti-tank weapons.
As Russia's invasion of Ukraine approached a grim anniversary this week, it was Joe Biden, not Vladimir Putin, striding through Kyiv on a sunny Monday morning.
Presumptuous of me to say this, but I thought it was important
that the President of the United States be here. Remember, I was warning the world that he was going to attack. I was certain of it. And I thought it was critical that there not be any doubt, none whatsoever, about U.S. support for Ukraine in their war against the brutal attack by Russia. And it's good to be back in Kyiv.
Biden was supposed to depart for Poland on Monday, but instead flew via Germany to Poland and then made a 10-hour train ride to Kyiv, where he delivered a strong message about a conflict that he has described as a battle between autocracy and democracy.
Democracy stands. The Americans stands with you, and the world stands with you. Kyiv has captured a part of my heart, I must say.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed Biden's announcement of an aid package worth nearly $500 million that the Pentagon said would include ammunition, artillery rounds, mortars, anti-armor systems, air surveillance radars, vehicles, parts, and more support equipment. Biden also vowed new U.S. sanctions against Russia, but did not mention Ukraine's request for fighter jets and advanced weapons.
I think that is a historical moment for our country, and very important. Today we'll speak in detail about the situation on the battlefield, but I think almost we'll speak about people, about Ukrainians, about Americans. I think that is huge and so difficult period for societies, and what we have to do to stop the war, to have success in this war, to make Ukraine more stronger, and how to win this year. You're very welcome, Mr. President. Thank you so much.
But analysts warned that the optimism may be premature. On Monday, Russian authorities claimed they had captured a crucial town in the nation's east.
It is far from over, unfortunately. The fights are still raging, and both Ukraine and Russia still think that they can prevail militarily. So obviously we're far from this, and the situation on the ground shows it.
Andy said Biden's visit to Kyiv does not make Putin look good.
Obviously for Vladimir Putin, having the president of the United States being in Ukraine just a few days before the anniversary is of course a very, very bad signal.
The White House says it informed Russian authorities hours ahead of Biden's visit. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who briefed reporters after Biden left, said he could not describe Washington's message to Moscow or Moscow's response because of the sensitive nature of those communications. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
China's top diplomat is due to visit Moscow shortly and may possibly even meet President Vladimir Putin, as the United States says it is concerned Beijing may be considering supplying weapons to Russia. Chinese weapons supplies to Russia would risk a potential escalation of the Ukraine war into a confrontation between Russia and China on the one side and Ukraine and the US-led NATO military alliance on the other.
Till now, China's been careful not to provide direct material support to Russia against Ukraine. But the US is worried that could be about to change. A day after meeting with his Chinese counterpart, the American Secretary of State reiterated a warning.
There would be real consequences in our own relationship were China to provide lethal assistance to Russia in this aggression against Ukraine. We have a real concern that China's considering doing just that.
At a time of heightened tensions between the US and China over spy balloons, China's response was unequivocal: stay out of its relationship with Russia.
It's the US who kept providing weapons to the battlefield, not China. The US is in no position to tell us what to do, and we would never accept its finger-pointing and even coercion and pressure on China-Russia relations. The principle that China follows on the Ukraine issue can be simply put as promoting peace talks.
China's foreign ministry says it will outline its position on the, quote, political settlement of the war following a visit by its top foreign diplomat to Moscow. The Kremlin called the agenda for the visit very broad, with lots to discuss. Over the past year, Beijing has reaffirmed its no-limits friendship with Moscow, a commitment made by Presidents Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin just 20 days before Russian forces began marching on Kyiv. While officially insisting on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations, China has refused to condemn Russia's aggressions in Ukraine or call it an invasion. Russia's moved closer to China ever since, strengthening its economic ties with the superpower and shifting its oil and gas sales to the east as Europe shuts it out. Beijing and Moscow have also expanded their military ties with a series of joint drills. But their no-limits friendship has so far stopped short of arming Russia. On Monday, Ukraine's President Zelensky warned China that doing so would bring on a world war.
Turkey on Sunday said rescue efforts following last week's devastating earthquake had ended in all but 2 provinces as visiting U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced $100 million in fresh humanitarian aid. The 7.8 magnitude tremor that struck southeastern Turkey and northern Syria on February 6th has killed more than 44,000 people, with the likelihood of finding survivors 2 weeks on extremely remote.
2 weeks on from the world's deadliest earthquake in 13 years, Turkey has begun to wind down rescue efforts, halting them in all but 2 provinces. Efforts continue in Hatay and Kahramanmaraş, the earthquake's epicenter, but any hope of finding survivors is dwindling by the day. It's estimated that more than 100,000 buildings have either collapsed, need to be demolished, or are severely damaged, leaving many survivors with nowhere to go.
I've been waiting for 15 days on this chair, in the cold. 15 days. Where will I go? My daughter, her husband, her son and daughter, 4 people from the same family are here.
Tens of thousands of people have died in Turkey alone, a death toll which is expected to rise, with many still unaccounted for. Of those lucky enough to survive, many have been left homeless. According to the government, over 1 million people are now living in temporary tent encampments. All this at a time where the temperature dips as low as -9 degrees at night in some areas. The aid effort to Turkey in particular has been wide-ranging, with over 100 countries and 16 international organisations pledging support for victims of the earthquake. Volunteers have travelled from the other side of the world to offer their help.
We want to say how sorry we are for the people of Turkey, how much love we have for them and support, and we just want to help with relief and disaster assistance. That's why our team is here.
The United Nations have appealed for more than $1 billion in funds for the Turkish earthquake relief operation, with more than 100 million of that to be provided by the United States.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Sunday announced further aid to Turkey and said Washington would provide longer-term help to Ankara as it seeks to rebuild following this month's earthquake.
The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is making his first visit to Turkey 2 years after taking office. His Turkish counterpart, Mevlut Cavusoglu, showed him the scale of the devastation in southern Hatay province. Washington announced further assistance to Turkey and Syria.
We've had about $85 billion worth of assistance poured in immediately for housing, water, and food, and medicine, and clothing. All that in the immediate days following the earthquake. Today I can announce that we will be putting in another $100 million to assist those who are so desperately in need.
Rescue efforts have ended in all but 2 provinces. It's estimated that 100,000 buildings have either collapsed, need to be demolished, or are severely damaged. For people with loved ones still missing, there is anger and frustration at government failures.
My cousin has still not been found under the rubble. The search has to continue so that at least they recover his body.
Blinken is meeting officials, coordinating the humanitarian effort. On Monday, he'll have talks with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Bilateral ties are strained on a number of issues, including the sale of US fighter jets to Ankara, Turkey's relations with Greece, and its refusal to ratify NATO membership for Sweden and Finland.
In Senegal, the peanut season has only been underway for 3 months and seeds are already scarce on the local market. Oil millers denounced the dumping practiced by foreign exporters. In Senegal, peanuts are the main source of income for local farmers. According to the World Bank, nearly 30% of households live from this crop.
Kaolack is Senegal's peanut growing capital. This product is normally a cheap source of nutrients here in local markets, but prices have exploded over the past 12 months. Fatoumata says that wholesale prices have increased by 60% compared to the same period last year.
I can no longer get by selling peanuts to feed my family. Some days I earn some others I don't.
This inflation can partly be explained by a poor harvest, but more importantly, by market speculation. These hangars on the edge of Kaolack belong to Chinese exporters who refuse to meet with us despite multiple requests. They buy peanuts at an elevated price from local farmers. The temptation is obvious, according to this industry chief.
It's advantageous, there's no hassle. The Chinese come to our village and don't try to negotiate. There are no transport fees. They pay and then they go.
This phenomenon has hurt local industry. Sonacos is a state-owned company employing 2,000 people to transform peanuts into oil for cooking.
Sonacos is suffering from unfair competition. No one is against the presence of foreigners in the sector because they play an important role in offering opportunities. But we think that their presence needs to be regulated.
The Senegalese government has announced a €30 million investment plan to keep Sonacos afloat.
A Nigerian banking report shows the volume of electronic payments has surged following cash shortages caused by a currency redesign. The Nigeria Interbank Settlement System says transactions increased by 55% in January alone. While the surge is seen as a positive move towards a cashless society, experts say Nigeria still faces challenges with online payments.
Blessing Michael needs to quickly sell off these pumpkin leaves and snails before they start to rot. She says without much money in circulation, her customers are cash-strapped and business has been slow. To get around, she's turning to online banking solutions, but she says it comes with its own challenges too.
We cannot make use of our money. I have money in my account. I can't make use of it. How can I withdraw 10,000 and pay 2,000 with my own money? It's not good.
Like Michael, hundreds of small businesses in this Abuja market are embracing online payments to stay afloat. Sunday Mba says it has not been easy.
It's affecting us so much. We cannot sell. People can no longer come to the market with cash. Go to the bank, you cannot even withdraw.
The Nigeria Interbank Settlement System says because of the cash shortage, online payments increased by 55% in January compared to a year earlier, despite the challenges. Experts say the report is a positive trend if sustained, but say commercial banks can improve online payment services to lessen the burden on citizens.
Part of what they should be doing is to be talking to the commercial banks. I think the commercial banks are not doing enough.
Nigeria recently redesigned some of its currency notes, the 200, 500 and 1,000 naira, to combat counterfeiting, fight corruption and mop up excess cash in circulation. Authorities also said the measure will limit vote buying during the elections this month. The new notes have been circulating since mid-December along with the old notes until last Friday. But millions of citizens complain the new notes are beyond reach despite submitting their old bills. Struggles for the new notes led to violent protests across 4 states in which police said 2 people were killed. Nwokolo says the protests were both economically and politically motivated.
There were a lot of other issues around it, especially issues that are not financially or economically related. They were politically orchestrated, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing today.
But with Nigeria's general election now just over a week away, many like Michael and Mba say they do not expect much to change. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
They queued for hours waiting for Ivory Coast to reopen its land border with Ghana as divided families and traders rejoiced after a 3-year COVID closure kept them apart or put them out of business. Ivorians and Ghanaians flocked in both directions through the tall metal arcs over the bridge which separates the village of No from Elubo in Ghana.
Upon arriving at the Ivorian border, these travelers from Niger queue for a mandatory COVID-19 test. As they patiently wait for their turn, some can barely hide their excitement at the thought of finally returning home. It's the end of a long exile for these Ivorian nationals living abroad, like Yaya Jerwo, who's been stuck in Niamey since the border shut down in March 2020.
I haven't been to Abidjan for 3 years. It's been hard. But now I'm happy because I'm going to return and reunite with my friends.
International flights to Ivory Coast resumed in July 2020, but those who couldn't afford a plane ticket had to wait until Thursday for the country to finally reopen its land borders. The announcement was met with enthusiasm in Noe, a small town near the Ghanaian border. Here, many residents used to earn a living by buying cheap goods across the border and reselling them in Ivory Coast, an activity which was abruptly halted by the pandemic. Some are now hoping to resume their old trade.
I've never danced in my life, but yesterday I did a little dance. It's a breath of fresh air for me, a feeling of pure joy. It's like we were dead and have been reborn.
Ivorian authorities also hope the reopening of land borders can help them better control a growing influx of refugees, especially from neighboring Burkina Faso, where ongoing jihadist violence has displaced millions of people.
The thorny trees and dung-caked homes of Umoja village make it resemble any other in Kenya's northeastern Samburu region, except in one key detail, the absence of men. Since it was established over 30 years ago, Umoja has provided a refuge for women from the Samburu community and beyond, fleeing female genital mutilation, domestic abuse, or child marriage.
As the sun rises on Umoja village, women wearing traditional dresses and jewelry perform their daily ritual. From a distance, it looks like a typical Maasai village, except for a crucial detail: men are nowhere to be seen. Only women and children are allowed in Umoja, a community that wants to provide a safe haven for victims of gender-based violence.
I'm very proud to live in this village because no one is forcing me to do anything, and my husband can't assault me here.
The village was founded in 1990 by a group of 15 women who had survived rape by British soldiers. Its reputation has since spread, attracting other victims of sexual and physical violence. Today, Umoja is home to dozens of women, many of whom escaped forced marriages and abusive husbands. Here they've learned to become autonomous and to make enough money to fend for themselves. Residents also strive to educate women from surrounding villages on the dangers of early marriage and genital mutilation, practices that remain extremely common in rural Kenya.
There is no need to have children without a plan. These girls need to be educated and choose their own partners, not like the old days where their fathers married them off to old and rich men. Women should choose who they love.
Long ostracized by neighboring villages, still largely dominated by patriarchal cultures and traditions, the women of Umoja have persevered in their quest to change mentalities in a country where more than 40% of women have been victims of sexual or domestic violence.
Ethiopia has long struggled with the problems of communal friction turning into violent ethnic conflict. Members of the two largest ethnic groups, the Oromos and Amaras, have come together to showcase traditional conflict resolution through musical drama.
1 year ago, Bertukan Taddese was fleeing war between Ethiopia's federal government and Tigrayan forces from her hometown in Wallo, Amhara region, where she works as a dancer. With the November peace deal, she is back performing and using her skills to show traditional ways to resolve conflict peacefully between two main ethnic groups, the Amhara and Oromo.
Our only difference is the language. We have seen them rehearsing yesterday, and they have also seen ours. If you look through my family, there's an Oromo, and there's an Amhara in theirs too. I don't know how it got so divided.
The actors in this production demonstrate Abbagar, a customary Amhara way of managing conflict to stop tit-for-tat violence. With Abbagar, elders and women ask for forgiveness on behalf of offenders.
Currently, with the government unable to maintain peace and security, people are being adjudicated by the Abbagar system. There are a lot of killings in our area, but once the Abbagar is involved, that's it stops.
Oromo actors perform their traditional Gada system, where the community's women call on elders to resolve conflict using the Sinke stick.
When people are fighting and the Sinke come in between, they must stop no matter what, even if it's murder. Afterwards, they're taken to the elders. The role of Sinke is vital in resolving conflict and protecting the rights of women.
The Sinke stick is given from mother to daughter when she gets married to safeguard her rights as a wife.
We are doing a lot of important work with the Sinke in addressing conflicts across the country, and not just with this tradition, but using the Gada system, which is inseparable from the Sinke, to bring peace in the Oromia region as well as in other regions.
Honoring traditional conflict resolution is key to peace, says artist laureate Yufru Gobena.
This shows the next generation that we can resolve conflict through discussion.
The Ethiopian youth in this audience seem to agree. Maya Mzikir for VOA News, Adama, Ethiopia.
28 minutes after 7, we've come to the end of our international news. Let's take a break.
Watch local TV on the go with the Eswatini TV app for only 20 emalangeni per month. Do the most with Eswatini TV app. Download from Google Play Store or App Store. We're good together.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. Now, the Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency will, for the next 3 days, hold a training session for government and state-owned entities throughout the country to capacitate them on the newly developed standard bidding documents. What are standard bidding documents? What are some existing gaps and shortcomings within the procurement system? How do they affect the system, and how will addressing them make the procurement system in Eswatini more efficient? Now, joining me to discuss this development further, Nyalongu Babe Velingwenya, who is the Senior Investigations Officer under the Compliance Department from the Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency. Mabuya, swerakhulu kusi joina lamhla ihlelo ensiyathi ukuthi sinvosalo kwangetingweti. Kodwa nje sibongile ukuthi ukhona unathi lamhla ekuseni. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Ngimalo. Good morning to the nation. My name is Velingwenya from ESPPRA. under the compliance department, audit and compliance department. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Mabuya. Inzaba ye standard bidding documents. In fact, inzaba the procurement, Mabuya, the tibe kun tibe palatable for the viewer, no matter for the consumer. The language it law in terms of it can fly over your head, but I'm happy to go to learn and I'm tracked out unpacker nankema standard bidding documents. We understand ukuthi training lecala lamuhla, but just ingangeni kuyo training ingabe kungaba nje kusichazela ukuthi what are standard bidding documents valid for the viewer, for the benefit of the viewer.
Thank you, Mr. Ngamalo. Thank you to the nation. Standard bidding documents, these are documents which are used in the procurement process, in particular during the bidding process, because there are different stages of the procurement process, and the bidding documents comes in at the bidding stage, and these are standard documents which are used across the procuring entities, which needs to conform to certain standards. We are not in isolation in the procurement space. We are also, there are other communities, international community and regional level, which are also doing procurement. So these documents must at least conform to standards. It should be unique and very unique to Eswatini.
Yeah, makes sense. So I suppose when you conducted training, there are, presumably some existing gaps and shortcomings that you want to close. I want you to allow my existing gaps and shortcomings len wabonile ning espra leni bona ukuthi ngale training indawo khona kwavala.
Thank you. Firstly, there is a requirement by the law that ESPPRA must come up with standard bidding documents. We must develop standard bidding documents. So we are not only closing those gaps, but it's a mandate by the Act of Parliament, which is the Public Procurement Act number 11 of number 7 of 2011. So it mandates ESPPRA to develop the standard bidding document. So the gaps that have been observed already is that the procurement process in bidding stage is not harmonized. The different entities, as you know, we are regulating about 91 public entities. So they are using different bidding document. So the process is not harmonized because each particular procuring entity will come with their own standard bidding document. But we do verify them, check them, try to make them to conform to the standards of procurement.
So I suppose the follow-up question would be, how does harmonizing them then benefit the procurement system as a whole?
It will enhance transparency, certainty, because you'll find at the moment you'll find that there will be a bidding document which the evaluation criteria is not clearly articulated in the document. So now that gives a challenge to the bidder, who must know before bidding what criteria or methodology will be followed or will be applied in terms of evaluating the bid and eventually coming up to the best evaluated tender.
I want us to get into the training nyalo. I think lo sokuchazile sekuyasipha lesithombe sebumqoka bawo lama standard bidding documents nalokuthi yini lama standard bidding documents. The training, I believe, begins today for the next 3 days. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So just what are the expected impacts and outcomes from this training?
We are expecting that procuring entities will embrace the change, that now they need to use these standard bidding documents, and they must acquaint themselves in terms of populating the information that comes from their end. For instance, the specification for a particular procurement, that has to be populated by the procuring entity. So they must understand how these standard bidding documents are necessary and how they are important to them as well. As I've mentioned, that you will not miss now the issue of evaluation criteria and methodologies. So I think they will find value in them.
Yeah, it's going to be very helpful indeed. I want you to give us an overview of the training. Who are you working with in the training? As I believe there is a certain ministry from the Parliament and just to give us an overview of the training and what are the requirements part of the training then?
Thank you. We are working with our mother ministry, which is the Ministry of Finance, and the ministry principal secretary has opened officially the meeting yesterday, and we are with them throughout the training, and we are also working with the government of Japan, which have an AFDB, which have made sure that the training is it happens this week. So it will run this week and next week, and we have invited procuring entities, which is the government ministries, the parastatals, and local government. So we have our participation thrown from that category.
Yeah, I want us to break down the standard bidding documents, ngalama categories. Documents now, the standard bidding documents for works and standard bidding documents for goods. Before we get to point number 3, the request for proposal to select consulting firm. What are the standard bidding documents for works and standard bidding documents for goods, and what's the contrast there, really?
Okay. Yeah, in procurement, we segment the procurement in 2 categories. There is procurement of goods, there is procurement of services, and procurement of works, and procurement of a combination of goods and works. So that is now called non-consultancy services. So there are different bidding documents for different purpose. So if you are procuring goods, you'll use the standard bidding document for goods. And if you are procuring works, you will use that relevant and corresponding document. Yes.
Outside, there's this general sentiment where we would see, the presence of ESPRA has not really been widely felt by the general public due to inadequate resources. Do you see the breach, your presence, a closer, and perhaps what are some of the interventions that you feel like ESPRA will have to make in making sure your presence is really felt by the general public? And perhaps to summarize that, why is it very much important for your presence to be felt by the public?
I think it's important, and very much so, because we are working with the public indirectly, because we are regulating public entities which are directly working with the public in terms of providing essential services, the works, and providing goods for efficient operations of government entities.
Yeah.
So it is very much important that the public knows that there is SPPRA who is doing the regulation, and what we are doing is that we also involve the suppliers which are now doing business with government.
Yeah.
And for instance, during this training, we'll also invite, and they are also invited, suppliers to participate. And we have advertised that in our social media streams, like our page, Facebook page, and WhatsApp. So we are advertising that suppliers who are interested in getting knowledge on how to bid with government, especially using these standard bidding documents which are forthcoming, they must show their interest by registration. The registration closes today, and that training will be free for the suppliers, for those that would be allowed in terms of the registration process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, as you mentioned, government, there is that, you know, that knowledge that you were promulgated by government to do the work that you do. But I want you to explain to the viewer at home the relationship between government and ASPRA to, you know, also kuvala na misinformation you would see ASPRA government lotimele ayetwa. Just, you know, what is the relationship between government and ASPRA?
Okay, thank you. Firstly, I'll start off by mentioning that we are a creature of a statute. We are established by Section 9 of the Public Procurement Act, number 7 of 2011. That being said, it means we are not a standalone. We are part of government. We are under the Ministry of Finance, and we are having a healthy relationship with working with government. There could be some challenges here and there, but that does not mean that there is no healthy relationship between us. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Mabuya, kusijoyina lamhla ehlelweni. Ngithemba ukuthi the information that you wanted to communicate has been communicated clearly, especially to those that have to attend training leqala kulolu suku lwalamuhla. And again, just to confirm, it's going to be for the next 3 days and 3 days only.
It's going to be the next 3 days, and next week we'll also be training other, because I said we are regulating 91 entities, so we couldn't bring them on board at once. Yes, yeah, they are coming. The other group is coming next week.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so there it is, Mr. Mabuya. So it's training. It will be ongoing from today and the next 3 days, as well as the 2 coming weeks. That I'll be say Lanzela September kutsi bonke labo lokufuna kutsi babe part of this training. But the time is 44 minutes after 7. Asipahlolet market uMasibuya lungelele uhlala phansi nalabo lati bakhulumisa ngokugubha lusuku lwelulwimi lwemtsabo.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who paid for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Asenze sinemukele siyakuvuselana wolosanza kusivulela besivedile masingenehleleni kusisida besikhulumisana labomake labasuka enhlanganweni yabo thishela ikakhulukazi njengoba umhlaba wonke kubhala ilanga le-International Mother Language Day. Lilanga ke leli lekugubha ulwimi lwemtsabo lekungilo ulwimi lwesiswati. Sitakhulumisana namake Lindiwe Malaza kanye namake Thando kuvabani njengoba umcoka balolu lusuku singemaswati ukuthi kubaleka kangakanani ukuthi silondvolode lulwimi lwethu lesiswati njengoba sesibona nje ukuthi abantu abaningi ikakhulukazi banifana etikolweni abasalati lulwimi sabahlala bakhuluma njalo singisi. Sitakhulumisana naye make Lindiwe kanye namake Thando sinivusele namhla ekseni siyabonga ukuthi nibe nathi lomuhla. I think nje i-mother tongue, i-mother language day lilanga lelibalekile emhlaba wonke, kepha nje singathanda ukuvuka ukuthi thine as emaswati ingabe nje lelanga leli libaleke kangakanani kumcwangana nje ukuthi sihle sikhumbula ukuthi elulwimi lethu libalekile.
Ngiyabonga dzadzewethu, ngicela kuvusela umbukele ekhaya njengoba sesibese kashido ngilindiwe Malaza ngenza kaVilakati sichamuka enhlanganweni yabo thishela besiswati. Lulwimi lomdzabo lugujwa mhlaba wonke njalo nakushaya inyanga yendlovana nathi ngemashumi nje lamabili nakunye. Lokhu kukhomba ke ukuthi lolu lwimi sesilu lulwimi lomdzabo lungumuntu lungulomuntu. Uma ngabe umuntu asede lulwimi lwakhe kusho ukuthi lo muntu sokusilahlekele. Nasilahlekelwe ngulomuntu kusho ukuthi silahlekelwe sive. Nasilahlekelwa sive ngesive siluswayilo oluthide ekuphile nje kwabantu emhlabeni. Ngakho ke kuyaye kube mcoka lokuthi lolu lwimi noma ke namhla buhlangene wakubona kumcoka ukuthi lulwimi lugujwe lulwimi lwemdzabo ligujwe njalo ngeminyaka. Kulomnyaka sine sibothishela besiswati sihlele ukuthi sidaba nemicimbi lomkhulu kusasa mhla ka-22 kugubha lolusuku lwelwimi temdzabo. Dibalulekile kakhulu ngoba njengoba sengichazile tingilomuntu lokusho ukuthi nathi nje singemaswati lulwimi lwethu lwesiswati lungithi nawususa lulwimi kithi kusho ukuthi sowusibulele sisive semaswati wabulala thine netindvo lesikholelwa kuto singemaswati.
Ube ngakonje make Thandi mhlabhlangene uyaveda lapha ukuthi ama languages emhlabeni wonke lekubukeka kwangathi ayashabalala alinganiselwa ku 6000 ngulungwane letisithupha. Kubude nje ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe lapha eSwatini sime kanjani thina njengoba ngivete nje ecala ukuthi abantu abaningi especially bamfana siyababona vele labanye bakhuluma silungu kakhulu leSwati abasasati. Ingabe vele mhlambe ulimi leSwati liyashabalala noma nekuva nje ukuthi ngabe inini lenendako kuzama ukuthi kulibuyisa lolwimi.
Angicela ngokuvusela dzadzewethu balaleli babukeli ngisho lokho ukuthi ngingulagama Thandi Luwenza Kamsibi nami ngikhona la ngilunga la enhlangano yelulwimi lwesiswati. Ngiyabonga ukuthi ngithole lelithuba dzadzewethu lekusho nje ukuthi lulwimi lwethu nathi luyasidzilikela luyasiphelela ngoba ukhanza ukuthi ngisho emakhaya bantwana sebakhulunyiswa ngesilumbi bakhulunyiswa ngalulwimi lolungasilo lulwimi lwemdzabo kanti lolwimi lumqoka ngaphandle kwelulwimi lwemdzabo dzadzewethu live libate lomahlanganisa longolulwimi lesilimunye ebeleni lesineliqapho ngalo. Manje sinaloko ukuthi nje kungcono mane sigcizelele ukuthi siyafisa kube kungithi badali bonke bakangwane ngasiyasho ukuthi mane nkosami emakhaya banivana bakhulunyiswe ngalolwimi kuze kuthi nalifika etikolweni bangalwenyanyi bantwana baseyini ke le kanzi nabalukhuluma nasekhaya batawati ukuthi buve babo kwayabo kwakabo.
Ngibulelo ukuthi mase sesikolweni bekuba nema prefects la bebaniketwe umsebenzi ukuthi babhale emasiswati speakers but ke manje lemvu seyigucukile seniyafuna ukuthi vele abantwana basathi lesiswati basikhulume. Ingabe injani vele le language etikolweni bayaladeni lolwimi bamfana etikolweni?
njengoba besekashido sisithandi lolu lwimi sekuya ngekusilahlekela kungako nje litiko letemfundvo lisukumile wonke umuntu lothinseka kokutemfundvo namhla kuhlangene lombala ukusukumele etikolweni liqiniso lithi labantwana vele abasa sebanebudlelwano lobuncane kakhulu nalolu lwimi lwabo uthite kadzeni bebajeziswa abantwana nakatfolakele yakhuluma Siswati imbewu leyo leyahlanyeleka yahlanyela lokuthi kulabantwana lolu lwimi alusilwimi lolumcoka njengaleti letinye tilwimi letikhona etikolweni kepha ke njengoba sibona nje namhla kuhlangene ukhuluma ngato sicubulo salonyaka nje sithi imfundvo ngetilwimi letinyenti letehlukahlukene ngiyo lesikhiya sekuthuthukisa imfundvo emhlabeni wonke jikelele kungako ke sigubha losuku yonke iminyaka sendela ukuthi le etikolweni kuphele lo moya wekuthi bantwana bajeziselwe ukuthi bakhulume ulwimi lwabo kanti phela lo lwimi ngilona lo mfana aluconza kangcono uma ngabe alufunze kusukela amncane ekhaya so ngaleyo ndlela leyo ke sithi bantwana etikolweni abakhululeke ngiloyo mfana akhululeke ukuthi akhulume ulwimi lwakhe lwaletayele lokunqenda ngithi ulwimi lwakhe ngilokuthi sesinebantwana labanyenti labachamuka etivent etehlukahlukene nathi sesinako la kangwane sibabukela umfana unelungelo elwimini lwakhe lokuthi ke sikhuthade kukhulunywa kugujwa kwetilwimi temdzaba sibukele wonke umntwana ngoba lulwimi njengoba uthi nje kulahleka cishe tilwimi letiya ku tinkulungwane letisithupha kusho ukuthi kunebantwana kunebantfu labemukeka emalungelo abo lilungelo labo lokuthi akhulume ulwimi lwakhe lalwetayele kungakhathalekile ukuthi ukuphi nendzawo emhlabeni umfu akavumeleke nje ukuthi akhulume ulwimi lwakhe kube ulwimi lwakhe lalusebenzisako nangabe ukhona kuva lona kangcono nangabe sesifika ekhathi esikolweni lo mntwana loyo usuke yasikhuluma ngemntwana usuka sasimeme kuqala lapho nje kusimama kuthi saka ngakhona ke kwakha akhele etukwalo lwakhe ulwimi akhele letinye tifundvo atakhele latumi tukwalo lwakhe ulwimi akhele letinye tilwimi nato atakhele etukwalo lwakhe ulwimi labacwaninga labafundzako nje babhale bathi vele lo mntwana nakasime kulolwakhe ulwimi asime kulokuqala kube sekubalula nekuthi afunze letinye tilwimi asekele ngato impilo lele sekayisekele ngalo lwakhe lulwimi sisho njalo nje
namhlanje abafundi bavumelekile ukuthi bangakhuluma Siswati esikolweni kuthi Maswati speakers
empeleni etikolweni letinyenti siyabonga uhulumende lokuthi uyakukhuluma uyakushicilela lokuthi labantwana bakhululeke etikolweni letinyenti abasajeziswa labantwana bajeziselwe ukukhuluma lolu lwimi lwabo akusasiyo imvama sekungamane kube yindvo leyenteka konje kuleso naleso sikolo kepha ke akusasiyo indvo levamile njengaloko akadzeni kusafunza thina
okay kwegcina nje mayethande 30 seconds engabe nje namuhla nje nzima yini nje lesingayidlala thina nje singamaswati ukuzama nje kubuyisa lona ulwimi loswati ukukhuthatha nje phambi ukuthi balikhulume ulwimi leswati
ngiyabonga tsatse wethu kukhuthatha nje sive semaswati ukuthi mama ne balithanze lo lwimi ngoba into uyenda na uyithanza balithanze lo lwimi bathi lokuthi bangemaswati ligcabo labo leli lesikubonile futhi sase wethu sibonile ukuthi emavela athuthukile aqalela tilwimi intawo kuze athuthuke nje aqalela tilwimi intawo mawufika nje umntwana asuka la kangwane ayofunda enyuvesi yakulelinye live bafike basicala ngelulwimi lwethu nathi masingenda njalo simaswati kuthi mane sakhe lo khombandlela wokuthi sicala elwimini lwethu bese siya kuletinye tilwimi lokho kutasenta simaswati siconnect iqaba ngalolwimi
okay sibanga makele into nawe makethandi kusinetha nje sithombe sokuthi ingabe simephi nje ngako vele ukukhulunywa kolulimi lwethu ulimi lefu lemtsabu lokulimi lwesiswati njengoba namhlanje mhlawumbe ukuba International Mother Language Day nathi sithi yes namhlanje siyabe sikhuluma Siswati throughout kanjalo nabamfana etikolweni batabe bakhuluma sona Siswati sibahlete makethe sidabe sidovala hlelo nasifiso
Siphindze-ke sinamukele lihlelweni, sinamukela nje siphindze siyanivalelisa. Sinikhombute nje ukuthi lamhla lusuku lokugubha lulwimi lwemtsabo. Sethemba ukuthi-ke wonke umuntu longomdali bokhewane namhla sitawubakhulumisa Siswati nje. Siyaninxusa vele ukuthi lamuhla sikhulume Siswati kude kushone ilanga lalomuhla. Lungelele sesitawabona kusasa sesikhuluma Singisi.
Ngitsale kahle.